Coming up in a newscast tonight. Seoul's special envoy to Pyongyang met with the regime's officials in charge of unification and inter-Korean affairs. The highlight of the visit was marked when the special envoy from the South met with North Korean leader Kim Jongun and delivered a letter from President Moon Jae-in. President Moon Jae-in and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump held a phone meeting yesterday. Seoul's leader filled Trump in on the reason for sending special envoys to the regime and highlighted the need for another inter-Korean summit. South Korea's dependence on family-owned corporate giants continues to grow, as shown in the list of 10 major contributors to the economy, filled with household names such as Samsung, LG, and Hyundai. News Center begins now. It's 8 p.m. here in Korea, live from our studio in Seoul. This is Arirang News Center. Welcome to our program. I'm Daniel Choi. Once again, our starting point is President Moon Jae-in's special envoy's trip to Pyongyang. It's been more than 12 hours since they left for North Korea. We connect to our Cheongwade correspondent Hwang Ho-jun for the latest. Ho-jun, so we hear that the envoys met with the North Korean leader himself.
That's right. Their encounter was confirmed when the Blue House press corps received a text message from Cheongwade spokesperson Kim Hee-kyum less than 2 hours ago, in which he said South Korea's special delegation did in fact meet with Kim Jong-un to deliver President Moon Jae-in's personal letter, and that they exchanged opinions. The Blue House also confirmed the special envoys will leave Pyongyang after they attend a dinner, but it's still unclear who the host is. As you noted, Daniel, the statement came many hours after the delegation headed by Chung Eui-yong, President Moon's top security advisor, arrived in Pyongyang. It was expected to be just a day trip, but there's a chance they won't get back to Seoul until after midnight, considering that they're staying for dinner, and that the Blue House confirmed that the latest statement from the spokesperson would be the last one for today. In case you're wondering why there haven't been many updates today, it's because the envoys have been communicating with the top office by fax. So, given the circumstances, there have only been 2 official updates from the presidential office throughout the day. What we know so far, though, is that the South Korean delegation first met with North Korean officials at the Twin Towered Korea Hotel in downtown Pyongyang. The officials include Ri Sun-kwon, North Korea's head of the Committee for Peaceful Reunification, and Kim Young-chul, who heads North Korea's department in charge of inter-Korean ties, and who also serves as Pyongyang's point man in deliberations with South Korea and the U.S. After holding a 20-minute long conversation with them, they were then asked to move to, quote, an undisclosed venue for the start of official talks, which we assume is where the envoys met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The delegation is made up of the same 5 officials who visited North Korea around half a year ago. They've been credited for playing a key role in bringing all the different sides back to the table after months of tensions. Their mission this time includes hashing out details of the inter-Korean summit slated to take place this month. So it was only 2 weeks ago when President Trump canceled his Secretary of State's planned visit to North Korea, citing lack of progress on denuclearization. And it won't be until tomorrow that we will know for sure about the exact details, including the specific date and agenda of the upcoming inter-Korean summit in Pyongyang this month. Back to you, Daniel.
Well, so far, positive developments with all the movers and shakers getting in one place. Thank you for those updates, Ho-jun. We appreciate it. Last night, the leaders of Seoul and Washington held a phone meeting. A conversation centered around inter-Korean summit and the possibility of the duo sitting down for talks on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. Hu-din shares with us what was discussed.
Should President Moon attend the UN General Assembly in New York later this month, the presidents of South Korea and the U.S. could meet on the sidelines to hash out future strategies on issues regarding the Korean Peninsula. Presidents Moon Jae-in and Donald Trump had a 50-minute phone call on Tuesday night, just a day before the South Korean envoys headed to Pyongyang to discuss the inter-Korean summit that will be held in Pyongyang this month. According to the Blue House press release, President Moon briefed his U.S. counterpart on the reason for sending envoys to North Korea to discuss preparations for the third summit between him and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Moon also emphasized the need for a fresh round of inter-Korean dialogue to reduce tensions between the two Koreas, which will ultimately contribute to denuclearization and the establishment of permanent peace on the Korean peninsula. However, after the phone conversation, the Blue House was cautious to confirm that President Moon will in fact attend the General Assembly, while White House spokesperson Sarah Sanders said the two leaders agreed to meet later this month. The Blue House said in a separate readout that the two leaders agreed to, quote, explore the idea of meeting in person on the sidelines of the General Assembly in New York. The phone conversation between the two presidents came less than 2 weeks after President Trump canceled U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's planned visit to Pyongyang, citing lack of progress on the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. 고르니, Arirang News.
Up north of the border, Kim Jong-un paid tribute to a key player in Pyongyang's missile development. He passed away, and he expressed condolences to the family as well. According to the regime's state-run media, yesterday, the North Korean leader attended the funeral of Chu Kyu-chang, the former director of the Defense Ministry, who played a major role in developing indigenous long-range missiles, including the Eunha-2 and Eunha-3. For such an involvement, Chu was sanctioned by the U.S. in 2013. He died at age 89 from pancytopenia. This is the first time the Communist state's leader made a public appearance since over a fortnight ago when he visited a medical equipment factory and was seen at a funeral for former defense chief Kim Yong-chun. President Xi Jinping will not be attending North Korea's founding anniversary celebrations. It's possible Beijing's leader does not want to be seen standing shoulder to shoulder with Pyongyang during massive military parades in case the regime decides to boldly display nuclear-capable weapons. However, according to our Lee Seung-jae, his right-hand man will be dropping by.
North Korea will celebrate the 70th anniversary of the regime's founding on Sunday. But one VVIP that won't be there is Chinese President Xi Jinping. According to state media in both countries on Tuesday, President Xi will instead send a high-level delegation led by Li Zhanshu, the chairman of China's National People's Congress. Li will travel to Pyongyang on Saturday, a day ahead of the celebrations, as President Xi's special envoy. Li, considered the third most powerful official in China and President Xi's right-hand man, will be the highest-level Chinese official to visit North Korea since President Xi came to power in 2012. In recent weeks, there had been speculation President Xi might attend these celebrations in what would have been his first visit to North Korea. The Chinese leader has met North Korean leader Kim Jong-un 3 times this year, but always in China. According to a former senior Chinese official, President Xi might believe he has little to gain from such a visit. With Pyongyang and Washington in a deadlock over how to proceed with the denuclearization talks, the Chinese president would be put in an embarrassing position if the North's military parade includes nuclear-capable weaponry. China has supported proposals encouraging Pyongyang to give up its nuclear arms. A visit would have also risked angering the U.S., which is strongly urging Beijing to maintain maximum pressure on North Korea. With or without President Xi's attendance, regional players, including China, are eager to see whether North Korea's military parade will include a display of intercontinental ballistic missiles. Experts say their absence from the streets of Pyongyang on Sunday would signal to the world that North Korea might be serious about denuclearizing. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Seoul's Prime Minister will be visiting Vladivostok next Monday for the first time since coming into office. During the 3-day trip, Lee Nak-yeon will deliver a keynote speech at the 4th Annual Eastern Economic Forum and discuss bilateral economic cooperation with President Vladimir Putin. The Russian Far East is a key region in the Moon administration's new northern policy, which involves cooperation with Moscow in key sectors dubbed the 9 bridges, including natural gas, railroads, and electric power. He may also meet Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and Chinese President Xi Jinping. While the leaders of Seoul and Pyongyang were both invited to the event, they decided not to attend the forum this year. South Korea's three main parties are taking turns addressing lawmakers at parliament. Stepping up to the podium today was Kim Sung-tae of the main opposition bloc. The floor leader held nothing back, lashing out with strong criticisms of the government and the ruling party. Here's Kim Min-ji with the highlights from that session.
On the brink of crisis. That's how Kim Sung-tae, the floor leader of the main opposition Liberty Korea party, assessed the country's economic situation, claiming that the government's policies are causing growth to retreat. He said the government's minimum wage hike and its drive for shorter working hours have slammed low-income households, young job seekers, and small business owners, rather than boosting their incomes and spurring consumption as promised. Kim also pointed out that all the policies the government is pursuing come with a hefty price tag for taxpayers.
The government's income-driven growth policies are like voice fishing aimed at enticing the people. They may be sweet to hear, but at the end of the day, they will lead to collapse. The Moon Jae-in government is driving struggling people into greater despair.
His comments come as recent economic data show sluggish job growth and a slowing economy. The floor leader called on the government to admit its policies have failed and demanded that it shift its policy direction. He said what the government should be doing is allocating a bigger budget for raising the country's chronically low birth rate by providing more incentives and greater financial support for child rearing. On North Korea, Kim said now is not the right time to ratify the Inter-Korean Summit declaration reached in April because it's too early to determine whether Pyongyang is fully committed to denuclearization. He said that Seoul should address the issue with a cool head, not emotionally, especially with the third Inter-Korean Summit slated to take place sometime this month.
It should be made clear that the original purpose of inter-Korean talks is North Korea's denuclearization. What's urgent is ridding Pyongyang of its nuclear arsenal through international coordination, not declaring an end to the Korean War.
He also openly criticized the National Assembly Speaker, who has been calling for the ratification of the Summit Declaration, saying that it seemed as though he were the mouthpiece of the Blue House. The main opposition party had raised an issue, saying the Speaker wasn't keeping his political neutrality. Kim said that even if the Speaker has his roots in the ruling party, he should be independent from the presidential office and do his best to keep the government in check, to which the Speaker responded that he will absolutely not be swayed by the top office. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
National Assembly Speaker Moon Hee-sang and the leaders of Korea's five major political parties agreed to meet on a regular basis to foster better cooperation and understanding. The decision was made after the speaker proposed the idea during his first lunch with the chairs of rival parties. Moon believes this will be a chance for the nation to take a leap forward. They agreed to meet up for lunch on the first Monday of each month to discuss various issues. Today, the participants discussed the parliamentary ratification of the Panmunjom Declaration, reform of the electoral system, as well as pending bills related to people's livelihoods and the economy. Some would point out over-dependence on major conglomerates remains an unresolved issue here in Korea. Latest data shows these family-owned firms not only continue to remain dominant, but are expanding their influence in the local economy. Choi Si-young gets us up to speed with the developments.
Korea's economic dependence on chaebols, the country's family-owned conglomerates, is increasing as data shows the combined sales of Korea's top 10 companies made up more than 44% of the country's gross domestic product last year. Data released by industry tracker CEO Score on Wednesday shows the accumulated sales of chaebols amounted to $677.8 billion in 2017. The lion's share came from Korean tech giant Samsung Electronics, which alone accounted for nearly 15% of GDP, with sales of $224.2 billion, followed by automaker Hyundai Motor and Samsung's local rival LG Electronics. The dominance of chaebols has increased over the years. Sales by the top 10 companies made up a greater proportion of Korea's GDP in 2017 than in 2015, when the top 10 firms' combined sales made up around 41.5% of GDP. This trend is in a sharp contrast to the US and Japan. The top 10 companies in the US account for about 12% of its national GDP. In Japan, the top 10 firms make about 25%.
This is not really an issue about the companies themselves, but rather South Korea should approach the issue by coming up with a new industrial structure.
Walmart and Toyota, the number one firms in the US and Japan, only account for roughly 3% and 6% of their respective national GDPs. 최시영, Arirang News.
After 5 straight months of gains, the nation's foreign exchange reserves edged down in August. According to the Bank of Korea, reserves amounted to $401.1 billion, down $1.3 billion from July. BOK adds the drop was largely due to the stronger greenback, which in turn decreased the value of the central bank's assets in other currencies. As of the end of July, Seoul had the world's 9th largest foreign exchange reserves, with China topping that very list. South Korea's leading messaging application is introducing an unsend feature, which allows people to delete messages sent mistakenly. Kakao Corporation has notified users about the change and will implement the new feature in the next update. It did not confirm an exact date yet. Under the change, one can delete KakaoTalk messages, but only before they are read by the recipients. Currently, people can only delete messages on their own device, not on the receiver's. This move comes after users complain about sending messages by mistake or to the wrong person. Other messaging apps, including Kakao's rival, Neighbor's Line, also already have similar functions. Various exciting programs help promote Korean culture or Hallyu while wowing viewers across the globe. Regardless of these successes, Seoul isn't sitting back and putting things on autopilot mode just yet, as evidenced by a content market being hosted in the country for the 18th time. Hong Yu takes us to the Broadcast Worldwide event.
The biggest broadcast format market in Korea, the Broadcast Worldwide, or BCWW, opened on Wednesday at COEX Convention Center in southern Seoul. Already in its 18th year, the event under the slogan "Discover the Infinite Potentials of Content" will continue until Friday. 300 booths from 200 exhibitors of 50 different countries are taking part in this annual event, offering a close look at diverse broadcast formats to domestic and international buyers. And among the participants, Arirang TV had a head-turner with its long list of content production.
Arirang is producing and broadcasting various content such as news, documentary, entertainment shows, and format shows. And this year we brought a new 4K documentary called Our Travel. And our most popular programs are After School Club and Simply K-pop.
Arirang TV is currently cooperating with Chinese media outlets to not only create content together, but also promote and propel Korean programs in the Chinese market.
The booths are divided into different zones based on their field, from Power Digital Zone for Korean broadcasters that have highly influential contents to Foreign Media Zone for international broadcasters.
Hosted by the Korean Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism and organized by the Korea Creative Content Agency, the BCWW is slated to continue growing and serving as a platform to expand Korean broadcast content to all around the world.
Exports of Korean broadcast content increased last year in the Asian market, especially in Japan, making more than $400 million worth of exports in 2017 alone.
Hong Yu, Arirang News.
There's growing interest in ways to better protect the elderly as the nation becomes an aging society, so it's not surprising to see Seoul hosting the 3rd Asia-Europe Meeting Conference on that subject. Yoon Jung-min spoke to participants on what could be done to better ensure the rights of silver citizens.
Like many countries around the world, South Korea's population is aging as birth rates fall and life expectancy increases. Those above 65 years of age now account for 14.3% of South Korea's total population, and that figure is projected to reach 41% by 2060. A country is classified as a post-aged society when the proportion of over 65s goes above 20%. And as society ages, the human rights of seniors is becoming more of a social issue, with many elderly people marginalized from society. To tackle this, 300 stakeholders from 30 countries gathered in Seoul for the 3rd ASEM Conference on Global Aging and Human Rights of Older Persons.
Therefore, this is a reality which imposes us the crucial challenge to rethinking and redefine the way we see, conceptualize, and address aging.
The poverty rate among the elderly in Korea amounted to 46.7% in 2016, the highest in the OECD, and elderly people often feel isolated socially.
Especially the relative poverty rate of older persons is about 46%, the highest among OECD nations. It causes other problems too, like elder abuse, elder suicide.
The forum emphasized the need to provide more senior jobs or proper subsidies to help elderly people who are economically vulnerable. It also called for more psychological care for those who live alone so that they stay attached to the community. The participants at the conference say they will keep working together to stand up for the rights of senior citizens and eliminate discrimination against the elderly. Jongun, Arirang News.
Time for us to turn to our Michelle back at the Weather Center for the updates you need. Michelle, weather has been flipping and flopping. It was nice to be under a clear blue sky for a while, but I hear it's going to cloud up again tomorrow.
That's right, Daniel. Now, as we proceed into our day tomorrow, the sky is expected to get cloudier and eventually start wetting the northern Gyeonggi-do and parts of Gangwon-do province in the evening. Now, this will eventually spread nationwide on Friday, pouring down between 5 and 40 millimeters. Now, under cloudy skies, the mercury still makes it up high across the nation. Beijing will be very similar to Korea, while Tokyo can expect some hotter and sunnier conditions tomorrow. Nowadays, morning temperature readings are on the cool side as Seoul starts the morning at 20 degrees Celsius, Daegu and Gyeongju in the high teens. Now, the daytime highs will be similar to today's, Seoul at 29 degrees and most of the country at 28 degrees. Now, the rain that's expected through Friday won't be a heavy one. Now, the light precipitation will clear up by noon in the central region on Friday, while the southern regions will need umbrellas through the whole afternoon. Now, after the rain, we'll feel that much of the autumn has come one step closer. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
These are the stories we could pack into our Wednesday evening's edition of Arirang News Center. Wherever you may be tuning in from, thank you for watching. Here's wishing you a good day or good night, depending on your time zone.